Shalom, shalom, peace, peace to the gods, peace to the earths. It's your boy Benaiah, and welcome to the Ascension. I want to start off by saying giving honor to the Most High, Ahia, or Yahuwah, God, the Supreme, the light, the consciousness, the everything. I don't even have words. Giving respect to his son Yashar'al, or Yahushua HaMashiach, whether it's called Jesus Christ, our brother, our example, and giving respect to the Ruach HaKodesh, to the Holy Spirit, to the Holy Ghost, the Shekinah. What's up? What's good? We back. And I should have been back a couple of days prior, but the Most High dealt with me with that. You know, I was supposed to put this lesson out like Saturday or Sunday, and life started lifing, and you know, this sort of got, I ain't gonna say pushed back, but I gotta be honest. You know, I didn't get it done, so it must have got pushed back. And the Most High gave me that slap on the wrist as to where things wasn't going right. And he said, well, you know why? I told you to do something, and you doing everything else. So as I was sitting right here, I'm in my office, sitting on the couch, and so I said, man, go do that lesson, bro. Because the whole time I'm thinking I have to be in a certain mindset, like, oh, man, because, you know, life is life. And he said, go do that lesson. So you always got the mindset. This thing should have been out. Give it to the people. And so I'm obedient this time around. You know, I'm a human being too, y'all. I don't always got it right. You know what I'm saying? But if I were to title this lesson, it would be, what a man thinketh, so is he. Knowledge versus comprehension. What a man thinketh, so is he. Knowledge versus comprehension. You know, they're two different things. And a lot of times, I know y'all heard me say that comprehension is the most important word in the English language. You know, I don't know about other languages. I just know comprehension's in English, and I don't know how to speak English. So it is what it is. But it's the most important word in the English language. It's comprehension. You know, when you're in school, they give you a whole bunch of knowledge. But when you get a test, what is it on? Reading comprehension. See if you comprehend the math. It's on comprehension. That just means if you understand the knowledge. Do you comprehend it? You know, a lot of our kids, they say, you know, we don't have comprehension. You know, we can have all the knowledge in the world, but do we understand it? Do we comprehend it? You know? And that brings me to a story. I'm going to keep it real brief. Just breaking down the differences again. You know, say you have a car, right? You got a car. And your car broke down. And there's two people here that could be your mechanic. You have the one guy who has a whole bunch of, this guy, he wrote how to build the engine, all the nuts and bolts. He wrote it all. Whole bunch of knowledge, man. He got it, bro. And then you have another guy who can't read, but all he does is work on these kind of cars all day, every day. That's all he does. And that's his living. No, he understands the car. He comprehends the car. So if your car is broken down, who you gonna give it to? The guy with the knowledge who didn't work on the cars, or the guy that might not have all that knowledge, but he has comprehension and he understands the car? Who's gonna be your mechanic? Of course, the guy with the comprehension. You know, knowledge is good, but it's not better than comprehension. There goes another one. It's a funny story. This takes me back to my childhood. But there's two guys in the forest. My family from the South, you know, so a lot of my stories, like I said, I'm East Coast, but I have a Southern culture. So a lot of my stories are Southern because I was raised by Southern parents, you know? And so there's two boys in the woods. One was a scientist. He had a whole bunch of knowledge. And one was just an old country boy, right? So by the world, he don't have that knowledge, but he a country boy. He got knowledge. but a whole bunch of comprehension. But anyway, there's a bear in these woods, and a bear start chasing after him. The scientists start calculating. This bear is running at 32 miles an hour at an upgrade of 15% up the hill, blah, blah, blah. If I run, the bear's gonna catch me anyway. No, we shouldn't run. Don't run. What'd the country boy do? He took off running. Who you think got ate? Knowledge versus comprehension. He knows, but he didn't understand. I might not know as much as you, but I understand. I have comprehension, right? And the same thing goes for this Bible. We got a lot of people who have a lot of Bible knowledge. They can run down the family tree. They can run by, you Hebrew this. They know the roots. They know the understanding. They know all the stories. They got the scripts memorized up in their head. They got all that knowledge. But when it comes down to the comprehension and the understanding of this Bible on a higher level, that's lacking, And so we all about comprehension over here. Knowledge is good. I'm never pitting knowledge because my people perish for the lack of knowledge. Comprehension is better. That's why he got so mad at the disciples. How much longer am I going to tarry with y'all? Do you understand what I'm saying? I know you know what I'm saying, but you're not understanding it. You're not comprehending it, right? All right, so let's get into it. What a man thinketh, so is he. Knowledge versus comprehension. What a man thinketh, so is he. Knowledge versus comprehension. I want to see where I want to start. Where do I want to start real quick? Y'all just bear with me as I flip through real quick and see if I want to start here or not. No, I'm not. I'll go there later because I was going to start there and you'll understand it later, but I'll just have you understand it now, right? So let's start here. I'm starting in the first superscript. I was talking to a good brother, and I always had him, but the most High lead me to him to open up these superscripts. But over the last week or two, I was led to open them up. And I'm glad. So we in the first superscript, right? And the first superscript is called, Thou shalt be the light. Thou shalt be the light. Let's go to first superscript. Let's go to page 41. Page 41, verse 66. I want to hang y'all with that. We're still on concepts, right? We're still comprehending. So the concept is about light and thought. Everything in this world was created with thought. God thunk it, he spoke it, and it was, right? If you look at this world, this whole creation is about thought. So a man thinketh, so is he. There was never a will until it was first a thought. A thought came, and then an action came, and then a will came. There was never a chair until there was a thought of a chair. If we know that we are seeds or many reflections of the divine creator, what do you think he put us here to do? Create. When you look around our world, everything you see outside of things that he made, we made. Or I should say outside of the things that the creator God's made, because that's a whole different thing. But, if you're not there yet, I'll just say, yeah, God made it, okay? But we made. Everything around you is a creation, and it all stemmed from a thought. I need you to keep that in mind. It all stemmed from a thought. So now, let's go here. Page 41, verse 66. A divine thought consciousness. We think of the logos as a living being that can take on form as Jesus manifesting as the living word. Let's go get a quick definition of logos. A quick definition of logos. If I know my alphabet, here we go. Logos, the thought of God co-eternal with all hierarchical unfoldments of a divine thought form. Here, you can screenshot that. All right? The thought of God co-eternal with all hierarchical unfoldments of a divine thought form. In the sun universe, like Earth, the Logos is Christ. It's a divine thought form. So now let's read it again. We think of the Logos, or a divine thought form, as a living being. They think of thought as a living being. Consciousness is alive as well, but we'll get into that later. That can take on form as Jesus manifesting as the living word, or the Christ nature. But that is only one revealed aspect of the supreme Logos. Christ is only one revealed aspect of the supreme Logos, of the supreme thought form. In reality, the supreme Logos is a consciousness linkage that comes directly from the Father. The supreme Logos, or the supreme thought, is a consciousness linkage that comes directly from the Father. Some of you are now starting to experience that consciousness linkage, that Christ consciousness. To establish, why does it come? To establish and maintain the divine thought forms within the various sun universes of life. For this reason, Christ is called the Son of God. Why is Christ called the Son of God? Because of the supreme consciousness of Christ is the same. He is a thought form of God. He is a thought manifested. That's the Christ consciousness. And this consciousness we must also share so that we also can be one with the Father through divine thought and divine consciousness. All right? Now, let's go to page 39, verse 60. We're going to put this all together. Page 39 and verse 60. We're going to talk about a divine balance, right? Nature versus energy, a divine balance. Let's see. Although the original thought forms are of light, in experimental sun universes, their extension can transpose into alterations and alternative possibilities. That even though the thought forms were of light, when they come to Earth or other sun universes, they can transform. They can alternate. So, all right. So they can transpose into alterations and alternate possibilities, all of which are continually sustained by the codes of light operating from the higher Trinity that manifests over any shadow of the evolutionary night as reflected in the nature of the experimental worlds. And so we know that there's a supreme consciousness, thought form, but there's also a form of consciousness that's not supreme. That although when it first came here, it may have been, but it could have been altered, or it was altered into something else. That the shadow of the evolutionary night as reflected in the nature of the experimental worlds. Now we all know that there is a shadow world. There is an evolutionary night per se. It didn't start off that way, but it became that. Stick with me. So now we know that yes, there's a divine consciousness. We also know that this divine consciousness, that this divine thought in everything, that there's a balance, that there's also another side to it, right? And there's often those other sides, or the darker consciousness or our lower vibration that's trying to pull us away from our divine purpose or our supreme purpose or our divine destiny, right? And we know that. We feel that pull every day. Every day we feel it. Well, some of it, let me speak for me. You can feel it almost every day. So now let's go to the book of Yashar'al. I want to talk about our brother, Hasatan. There's a divine balance there, right? As to where he too started off with a light conscious, but because of different things, it altered as to where his consciousness is not of the supreme anymore. It's still a higher form than ours, but it's on the shadowy realm, right? So let's read this. I want to read a story about in the book of Jasher. Abraham was taking Isaac up to be sacrificed, quote unquote, right? But on his way up there, the Bible doesn't talk about it, but he encountered Satan a few times, and Satan was shifting or presenting himself in different beings, all right? So now let's read this part, verse 25. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I suggest you read this whole chapter. It's pretty good, the book of Joshua, chapter 23, if you like stuff like, I love this stuff. So, and whilst Abraham was proceeding with his son Isaac along the road, Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of contrite spirit, and he approached Abraham and said to him, so what just happened? Abraham is going to proceed to go ahead and sacrifice his son. And on his way there, I'm going to read it again. Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of contrite spirit. And he approached Abraham and said to him, art thou silly or brutish that thou goest to do this thing this day to thine only son? I'm not worried about how Satan appeared to the man. It says that Satan appeared to him of a very aged man. He was humble and of a contrite spirit. My thing is, how was he able to do it? What originally sparked it? What is the true creator? Thought. Was this a thought of the supreme light? No. But was it thought? Yes. When you were wicked, and you did a lot of bad, a lot of evil, wasn't your thinking different? Absolutely. And everything you did sparked with a what? A thought. Everything that is because of a what? A thought. Thought is the true creator. Thought is the true creator. I told you guys that as we continue to grow, high vibrational matter becomes light. Low vibrational light will eventually descend into matter. So we are matter bodies. We are trying to raise our frequency, raise our vibrations so that we become light, so that we can obtain our light bodies. Some were in the light, and because of their consciousness, their vibrations lowered, their frequencies lowered, and they became matter, right? So now let's go back. We're going to keep this thing rolling. Let's go back. Now we're going to page 33. We're in the superscript again, page 33. Now we know the divine balance of this thought and of this consciousness. 33, page 33. Our separation from the higher evolution is in fact an illusion. Our separation from the higher evolution is in fact an illusion. Even in dimensional antecedents or sub-areas of manifestation, each creation ultimately can ascend into perfection. We just talked about that. The process depends upon the coding and the thought forms put into and added to the original realms of formation, Yashar'al. I want to read that slow, and then I'm going to explain it. Our separation from the higher evolution is in fact an illusion. Some of us are starting to find that out. Even in dimensional antecedents or sub-areas of manifestation, each creation ultimately can ascend into perfection. How can you ascend into perfection? Where's it going to start? Starts in the mind with a consciousness and your thoughts. The process depends upon the coding and the thought forms put into and added to the original realms of formation. So now we all know, or some that don't, that there is a consciousness being put into this earthly realm. As this supreme divine consciousness is being put into this earthly realm, some of us are having frequencies saying, uh-oh, there is something here. There is a shifting. And we are starting to connect consciously to this new upload, to this new coding and this new program being put in the earth. On the flip side, others are connecting to a lesser program that's all about this fleshy 3D world. And we see it all the time when you get on social media and things like that. You know, sometimes, I get on there and I see what's entertaining people and what's entertaining our youth. And you watch that trash, for a little bit, then you start feeling bad, like, man. But some people are all sold out about it because that's the coding that they're in tune to, right? That is the consciousness, that is the thought form that's being put into the earth for them to tune into. And for others, we can hear the whisper of God as to where there's a new frequency, there's a consciousness, there's a new thought form that we're tuning into. And he is upgrading you or accelerating your consciousness so that you too can have that supreme logos, that supreme mind, that Christ consciousness, and we can ascend into that perfection and be one with him. All right. Let me read this part. From Malkuth, from the earth, to Kether, to the crown. And from Kether, from the crown, back down to the earth, creation scenarios are wedded together. All this stuff is wedded together. You truly have to decide what tree you're eating from. And when you decide what tree you're going to eat from, and we're talking spiritual, when you decide what tree you're going to eat from, then that tree will begin to feed you. You are going to be who you are based on the decisions that you make. Matter of fact, let me go to the book of Proverbs real quick. Let me go to the book of Proverbs. It got me thinking about a concept. Where is that at? Proverbs. Did I write it down? Let's go here. Proverbs 23. Yeah, let's go right here. Proverbs 23. I want to read verses 6, 7, and 8. Remember, this ain't about knowledge, it's about comprehension. Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye. Eat now from the bread or from the tree of those who have an evil eye. For those who aren't on that wavelength, for those who aren't doing the same things, who aren't doing the same things to get on the God level. For those doing dirt. We all know those who have an evil eye, right? It's not somebody who's really gazing at you like this. That's not what he's talking about. Neither desire thou his dainty meats. Don't desire nothing off that table. Now, I can get into the diet piece, but I let the Bible speak for itself. And if you ain't there, you ain't there. But, ain't none of us was born there. We had to grow there. Eat now, not... I'm going to start over. Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. The Bible's telling you right now, be careful what tree you choose to eat from. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. So as a man truly desires in his heart, so is he. And drink, all right, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. He says, yo, come on, man. Look how we living, man. Look how we doing. Come on. What you doing? Studying, reading books? Bro, man, look. Ain't nobody gonna know none of this stuff till you die, man. Yeah, that's what he's saying. He said, yo, come sup with me. We're not talking about literally eating. He's saying, yo, come chill with me. Get part of my mindset. Get part of my way of thinking. Get part of my way of beliefs. Look, I wasn't always who I am, and I still got homeboys that's still out doing, what we used to do. I could say hi, but I can't sit down and suck no more. I ain't gonna be chilling. I ain't hanging. I gotta be careful what fruit I'm eating or what tree I'm on. I left that tree and came to a good tree. And because I've been on that good tree, I ain't gonna say that everything's been good and smooth, but things are better. Especially with our folk, folks be like, yo, Benaiah. Nobody call me Benaiah. My real name Vince. I'm a righteous name Benaiah. They be like, boy, what, you think you're better than people? I used to get that early on. I'm like, yo, I ain't better than nobody, but I'm better off. And that's the truth. Because of the Supreme, because of the knowledge, because of the gods, because of the angels, and because of the increase of my understanding, I ain't better than nobody. But am I better off? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can be too. The morsel which thou hast eaten shalt thou vomit up and lose thy sweet words. So they keep eating from that tree. Eventually, everything that you was eating, you have to throw up. And everything that look good ain't good. Everything that glisten ain't gold. The Most High said, you're going to throw that up. But when you eat from this good tree, it's going to nourish you. When I was in the world, or in that life, man, that tree made me very sick. I was mentally very sick from that tree. And it took me a while to recover as I started eating from the new tree. And it started nourishing my mind, my body, and my soul. Things became different. I walk with my gun now. I'm not talking about a physical gun. I'm talking about this new gun that we found, which is God, the universe, and nature. When you have your gun, when you have God, the universe, and nature, what weapon formed against you can prosper? Because we know that as the superscript said, that all this from earth to the crown, from my crown to the earth, was married together. It was put together. But when things are out of order, comes destruction. And when I'm walking in the order, in the way that the Most High intended, and with my knowledge and with my consciousness, what is there that I cannot do? Because I am God. Look at God like this, right? I often think of the supreme consciousness, and it's just the way I think, as like a big old brain, right? And everybody else, and every little, I say little gods, but every little person made is like a little brain. When this all time is over with, and when this stuff is over, he's going to send you into this world. And he's going to see, when that little brain comes back, he's going to see what kind of consciousness it is. And if you come back, or whether you call it judgment or graduation, whatever you want to call it, but if the consciousness ain't right, the Supreme going to send you back away. Because he says, man, I can't tarry. I can't be with things that ain't holy. I can't be with things that ain't right. But if he sends you out and you come back with that supreme consciousness, with your little brain, with that supreme consciousness, and then meshes with the big consciousness, he's gonna bring you in, and he's like, all right, come on with me. Me and you are one, right? And so as I'm out here collecting all my information to report back to the Father, I just know that I have to have my consciousness right. Because when it gets back, it needs to be in sync. And we keep eating from that wrong tree, you ain't gonna be in sync. I don't give a damn how much good you do. There's an old saying that you can't out-train a bad diet. I don't care how much you go to the gym. If you eat like crap, you ain't gonna look good. I don't care how much you study. If you don't practice it, it ain't good, right? All right. I don't know why you had me go here, but the Spirit had me go there, so it's for somebody. All right. So now, let's stay in the Bible. Let's go to the book of John. Let's go to the book of John. Yeah, the Most High out here, the supreme consciousness. I look at it like just collecting little consciousness smaller consciousnesses, if that's even a word, to join the supreme conscious. And if your mind ain't right, if you don't have that Christ consciousness, you can't join the Father. You can't join the ascension. You can't join the angels. You can't join nobody. You ain't gonna graduate. You're gonna meet judgment. Off to another earth, to another world you go. The Bible says it's gonna be hell. So you're going to a lower planet, a lower vibration, and who knows what that world consists of. If it's truly consisting of fire or whatever, who knows? But we know it's somewhere you don't want to be. That's the way I look at hell. Hell's another place where there is no consciousness. It's somewhere you don't want to be. You don't want to be. And for the enlightened, this already is a hell. So we just trying to shed this meat suit and get back to the light. All right, John 8. Here we go. We're going back on the consciousness, back on the mind. We're going to start at verse 42. And Jesus said unto them, if God were your Father, ye would love me. For I proceeded forth and came from God, neither came I of myself, but he who sent me. We just read that right here in the superscripts, that Christ was nothing but a form of God, or a thought of God that became flesh. And now when we read this with some comprehension and understanding, we get it. It makes perfect sense. If God were your Father, like God is our Father, ye would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. I can see different teachers and I can see different people, and I know if they proceeded from God because my spirit testifies and witnesses to him. My understanding of God at this moment, and hopefully every day and every year, whatever the case may be, that understanding is going to grow. And when it grows, of course, it's going to change some. If God were your Father, ye would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. He said, I didn't just come out of nowhere. I was sent. This consciousness was sent. Why do you not understand my speech? Why are you still not getting it? Y'all have all this knowledge, but you have no comprehension. Why aren't you understanding what I'm saying? When I tell you that you are God's, when I tell you I'm the Son of God, why don't you get it? Even because you cannot hear my word, because you can't hear me. You can't hear me. I remember back when I had a lot of exoteric knowledge, and I still do, but sometimes on these higher spiritual teachings, there was a brother, a true story. I don't know why the Most High got me doing this, but there was a brother, goes by the name of, I ain't going to say his name, right? But anyway, I think it was Passover. And I was Bible, And this brother said he was in understanding, but he wouldn't eat meat for Passover. So, we made this lamb, and he wouldn't eat the lamb. And I'm like, well, how you say you keeping Passover, and you ain't partaking in the lamb? And he was like, he was what we would call a raw. He was a raw vegan or a raw veg. Anyway, he just didn't eat flesh. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm there now. But at that time, I didn't understand it. And I thought that he was tripping. You know what I'm saying? Almost to the point to where I was getting mad. I was getting angry because he refused to argue with me. Not that I was trying to argue, but I was trying to get understanding. You know what he simply told me? He said, you're not there yet, but you'll understand later. He saw something in me, but he told me flat out, and to a man like me, to a grown man like me, and how I was and how I think, what you gonna tell me I don't get it? Like, nigga, I'm smart. Like, yeah, I get what you mean. Like, you don't get it. You ain't following the Bible. You don't get it. But now I understand. And this is what Christ was saying. It's like, you don't understand my speech. At that time, I didn't understand his speech. I didn't get it. It's Passover. You're supposed to be eating of the lamb. He said, man, I'm not touching no meat. He said, y'all get all the meat you want. He said, I'm not eating no lamb. I said, well, you ain't keeping Passover. He said, I'm keeping Passover on a different level. Now I get it. Why do you not understand my speech? Even because you cannot hear my word. I didn't hear it. I didn't understand it. Ye are of your father, the devil. He said, if you can't understand my concepts, you can't understand this Christ consciousness. If y'all can't understand what I'm trying to say through this, some of those who were where I were, very exo and just by this, and you think I'm off to the left, you don't know it yet. You just don't know it yet. But that's not an excuse to stay. You still have to evolve and go. Ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own word, for he is a liar and he is the father of it. So a lot of times when you get into your own understanding, these lower level consciousness, you won't understand something that's of divine or something that's of a higher way of thinking or a higher way of doing. And Christ says that you're of your father, the devil. What is he saying? He's saying that consciousness that you under, that understanding that you have does not come from my father. That comes from Hasatan. That comes from the darker forces. You know what I'm saying? So when the forces were put into this world, he's not saying that Satan is literally their father, but he's saying that consciousness that you have is not of God. That's not of my father. He says you have the same consciousness as that of the devil. And after his lust, you're going to do. Why are you going to do it? Because everything comes from what? Thought. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth. So if you don't abide in the truth, if you don't reside in the truth, if that's not your way of thinking, if that's not your consciousness, how can you be righteous? Because there's no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own. If you're truly speaking of God, of that consciousness, there is going to be an underlying truth there. But when you don't have that consciousness, you start speaking of your own, it's going to be a lie. Why is it going to be a lie? Because it doesn't come from God, right? Those quotings that's being sent, you're not picking them up if you're not understanding what I'm saying. And because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. And because I'm speaking to you like this, you don't believe me. You don't believe me. I went off. Which of you convinces me of a sin? And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? I'm not going to get into that. We'll just go right here. And because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. Now I will go into that. Which of you convinces me of a sin? If I say the truth, why do you not believe me? What am I doing wrong? How am I transgressing the holy law of God? How am I transgressing these universal laws? But because I speak to you the truth, you don't want to believe me. I'm trying to tell you, I'm the Son of God. And he sent me here so that you too can pick up on what I'm saying. There's nothing outside of you that you got to do. You are God's. But because I tell you this, you don't believe me. Because I tell you it's about a consciousness and a thought form, you don't believe me. When I tell you that God is sending things into the earth so that you can try to catch on, you don't believe me. And you don't believe me because you're of your father, the devil. Because you're on a lower consciousness, because you're on a lower thought form, so you won't believe me. And you will do your father's will. He that is of God heareth God's words. Ye therefore hear them not, because you are not of God. He that is of God hears my words, and they understand what I'm saying. But if you don't, it's because you're not of the Father. It's because you're not of God. Remember, Christ spoke in parables. You have to be able to get that. You have to be able to understand that. He got frustrated with him. He's like, why don't y'all understand me? You can't hear me, man? Like, you can't hear me? How long I got to be with y'all, yo? So now that we know that this is truly all about thought and consciousness, that everything was made with thought, And depending on where your consciousness is where your thoughts going to be and what you're going to make, right? So now let's go into the book of Genesis. I'm going into this because a lot of people in the church don't understand this. And they will let somebody from the streets use this scripture to try to tear apart the Bible because they don't have any understanding. They have knowledge, but they don't have any understanding. Let's go here. Genesis 1, and we're going to start at verse 3. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So right here, I want you to break a firmament. We're going to expand your consciousness. This right here in the Bible is a word spell. Understand what is going on. When in the superscripts, when these new worlds are created, what goes into those worlds first? Light, a consciousness. And when that light is there, when it hits those worlds, there's also that to where that light can get altered, to where there's a divine balance. There's a supreme consciousness of God, and there's also a darker consciousness. So now let's get into this word spell. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. This light has nothing to do with the sun. This light has to do with the consciousness that came down and hovered over the waters of the earth. Let's go back to verse 2. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the waters. There was nothing there but the Ruach. And God said, let there be light. The first thing he sent was a divine consciousness. The first thing he sent was the light of the world, the light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And he divided the light from the darkness. Now he says he divided the light from the darkness. This has nothing to do with day and night right now. He divided the light from the darkness. So the supreme light from the darker light, he divided them. So now we have the consciousness on earth. Before any material thing was here, there was the light. And God called the light day, and he called the darkness night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So this light, this consciousness, he called day. And then the darkness he called night. Now, why do I say that? Now, let's move on. You don't believe me. I know you don't believe me. Let's go to page 5. No, hold on. Now, this supreme darkness, when we get into some understanding, we call that the Ein Sof. The Ein Sof. Let's go to the Holy Megillah. Let's go to the Holy Megillah. Let's get a definition of the supreme darkness. Let's go to Holy Megillah, page 4. Oh, man, I messed up my page in this thing. I like this book, y'all. We're going to get some more stuff out of here. Like I said, it don't got to be verbatim true. It can be an allegory. It can be a parable. But it's for you to get a spiritual understanding. Ein Sof. Ein Sof is the realm of infinite possibilities, the unmanifest realm of pure potential. So in the Ein Sof, in that pure darkness, when that darkness and that void were on the earth, earth was just a realm of infinite possibilities. Earth could have been whatever, with whatever kind of thought, with whatever kind of thing. That's a deeper concept of that darkness and that void. It was the Ein Sof. It was the realm of the infinite, of pure potential. The realm of infinite possibilities and unmanifest realm of pure potential. So it was things that did not come yet. They were unmanifested, but the potential was there. Now let's get a definition again from the keys. Page 566 of the Ein Sof. The realm of the infinite. Did it? Hold on. I think I wrote the wrong number down. Yep, here it goes. The limitless, connected with the light as Ein Sof or sees and knows. The limitless, connected with the light. So when God sent the light, he sent it into a world with infinite possibilities. It was limitless. And he separated the light from the dark. He called the light day and the darkness night. This is way before there was either a sun or a moon, but there was a supreme consciousness already here. Either you're walking in the light or you're walking in the darkness. Either you're walking in the day or you're walking in the night. Now, let's go to verse 14. Verse 14, Genesis, verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. What? And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night. See, automatically in your mind, the day and the night was divided. He said he separated them. But now I need a light. So now the sun is coming. So that first light had nothing to do with the sun or the moon. That first light was the supreme consciousness and the darker consciousness. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, which we call your sun, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And there we go. And there we go. So the next time somebody talking that Bible stuff, talking about, well, he made light in there, and then later on it said the sun. Now you know what that means. Even though your pastor don't. You know, if you still going to church, you know, maybe you could shed some light on him. But yeah, the light in the dark. That was the first thing made before anything else. You know, the divine balance. Right? He sent that. And then he had to resend it with his son. Now we resending it with us. You know, we are the light of the world. Let's go to the lost teachings on Christ. It's all about thought. Thought taking form. Divine teachings of Christ. Actually, here, I'll show y'all my notes. But you see this? This is thought. Now, the Egyptians has thought as a god. Lord God thought. But that's where we get the word thought from. Is thought. Because of the supreme consciousness. The Lord God thought. Thought. A lesser God. Thought. That's where you get thought. Just something for you to know. You know, now your thoughts can be of the divine or of the lower frequency. But it's thought. You know, and if your thought is on that Christ consciousness, you know, a lot of people don't understand what you're saying. It's because they're of their God the devil. They're of that lower consciousness, of that lower thought form. When God sent that light into the earth, not everybody's going to cling to the higher light. Way before the sun and the moon came, the light was here. All right, page 67. I'm about to wrap up. It ain't gonna be too much longer. Page 67. We in Christ suppressed teachings and the lost teachings of Christ. This is Mary Magdalene, the divine feminine, Jesus' lost teachings. All right, here it goes. The suppression of this is page 67. He taught that our souls, I can't talk today. Jesus' teachings on the nature and destiny of the soul was suppressed. He taught that our souls had their origin in God and had the potential to return to God through a disciplined path of soul evolution. What did Christ teach? See, this is why they couldn't understand it. This is why they didn't get it. Christ taught that our souls had their origin in God And they have the potential to return to God through a disciplined path of soul evolution. You know, I think of it like the same kind of way. Like I said, you know, with the big brain and little brains coming back, like we have to come back. We have to come back. I want to skip down. Yet the attack on Jesus' teachings on the soul as the potential to become godlike had begun before Nicaea. So they took these teachings out of your Bible. If you don't know what the Council of Nicaea is, go look it up. I don't have, you know, I can't get into it right now. But they were already planning and scheming to take out these teachings. And what was Christ's teachings? That the soul has the potential to become godlike. What did the superscripts tell us? That it's an illusion. Our separation from the higher evolution is in fact an illusion. Each creation can ascend into perfection when we start perfecting our thoughts and our thought patterns. When I was in church, there was a preacher. He wasn't even a preacher. I went to actually my sister was preaching, and I went to this church down in Maryland. There's a whole bunch of old folks in there, you know. Remind you of a down-home church. I'm talking about knee slapping, you know, old school church. Like old school. But there's an old man, he got up and he said, "Young man, I want to tell you something." And I was listening. I'm coming from the street. I'm listening. He said, if you take this word and put it in here, he says, it'll change how this thinks. He said, if you take this word and put it in here, it'll change how this thinks. Then it'll change what comes out of this. That always stuck with me. But now I understand it. Because now it's all about thought. When I put these divine teachings in me, I think different. So I act and speak differently. I got you, old head. I got you. In the early centuries of Christian thought, church fathers took exception to Jesus' teachings. They decided that the soul did not come from God. Instead, they linked the soul to the body, saying that both were formed out of nothing, meaning that God... I'm sorry, this stuff is crazy, man. It's all conspiracy. All right, I'll start over without laughing because it's not funny, it's pitiful. But some of us are finding the path back. All praises to the Most High. Hallelujah. In the early centuries of the Christian thought, church fathers took exception to Jesus' teachings. They decided that the soul did not come from God. Instead, they linked the soul to the body, saying that both were formed out of nothing, meaning that God created life not from his own being, but from the nothing that was outside of himself. How stupid is that? And we believed it for the longest. Only Jesus' soul, they claim, was made of God's essence. You too were made of the essence of God. This new doctrine devalued the soul and thus compromised our ability to follow Jesus' example and return to God as his son or as his daughter. Not only did the church lose the spirit of what Jesus was all about, but it effectively ruled out the possibility that we could become like him and have our own one-on-one relationship with God. The church concluded that the only way we would obtain salvation was through the foremost steps of instruction offered by church rules and rituals. So this was once common knowledge. Everybody knew that once you get your soul disciplined into this path of soul evolution, and you get your consciousness and your thought form, that you too are created of God, and you too can have a one-on-one relationship with God directly. You don't need to have the church for it. You are the church. You don't need the building. It is good to gather with like minds. Nowadays, I can't gather like that, but I'll go on the hoot. I'll go on the phone, you know, with folks that are of a like mind. You know, that is good. It's building up the soul, building up the spirit, you know. But the church knew this the whole time. They knew, but they didn't know that we find our way back. That is what they didn't know. The Most High told me to hit on something. Emotion. Emotion. You know what emotion means? The E stands for energy. Emotion is energy in motion. It's a word spell. So depending on what you get emotional about, lets me know, and the world know, and the angels know, and the guides know what consciousness you on. When I truly start breaking down these words and understand these word spells and emotion, we only try to be emotional about things that are good, because everything else does not deserve your energy or your vibration, or for you to lower your consciousness or lower your understanding. It's your energy and emotion. That's why we have to set our thoughts and our minds on good things, right? That's why the Bible tells you to think on good things. Let's go to the book of Philippians. Let's go to the book of Philippians. It's going to be in your New Testament. Where am I going in Philippians? Philippians 4 and 8. And here it goes. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. Have your thoughts on these things, because thoughts spark what? Creation. So if your thoughts are on these things, your creative process and the things that you create and manifest in your life will be good. It will be good, because thought is the base of all. I'll read it one more time. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which you have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do. And the God of peace shall be with you. He shall be with you. That consciousness shall be with you. That presence shall always be with you. And I was sitting on that chair and I thought I had to be in the right mindset. It's always with you. As long as you live and right, it's always with you. Go do that lesson, boy. So, Father, Mother, I did it, right? Being obedient to the Spirit. But that's all, folks. Welcome to the good side. I'm on y'all's side. Welcome to the good side. We on y'all's side. And you know we stay doing it. Y'all's way or no way. It's y'all's way or no way. We are walking under that spiritual order. We are walking under that order of Melchizedek. We were back to the basics, but now we on the ascension. I'm trying to keep my mind on all things good. And if it ain't no good, I ain't putting no energy and motion in it, because that's emotional. And I'm definitely unashamed about that. Benaya is out. Peace.